family? What's going on? Happy Monday, happy Monday. We are back. We are back with another episode. Indeed, we are back. Yes, sir. Peace, peace, peace. Peace, peace, peace. I'm glad y'all can make it. Peace, peace. We are live with another episode. Episode 28, DTR 360 Books Podcast. Happy Monday, happy Monday. What's going on? Happy Monday, happy Monday. I hope y'all Monday is going well. It was raining earlier in New York. Now it's sunny. Now the sun is out. What's going on? We got a very special guest here today. A very special guest that will be on the podcast in a few. Alright, so we're going to be talking about, as you can see in our comments, we're going to be talking about agriculture, the importance of agriculture, and pushing the culture forward through agriculture. Let me tell you something. There is no culture without agriculture. You can't talk about black culture, you can't talk about African culture, you can't talk about indigenous culture without agriculture, right? Because that was our main core of living. That was our main necessity of lifestyle. It was agriculture. So you can't come to me and talk about freedom. You can't talk about freedom without mentioning agriculture. You can't talk about freedom with me and not mention farming. You can't talk about lifestyle. Your lifestyle that you're living right now. You can't talk about you're free and not talking about growing your own food. You can't talk about that with me. So we're going to break all that down today. We're going to break all that down today, and we're going to make sure that we learn something about agriculture. We're going to make sure that we put our energy and our agenda towards agriculture, because there's a lot of talk about financial literacy, and I ain't knocking that. There's a lot of talk about reparations, and I ain't knocking that. But there's not enough talk about agriculture. There's not enough talk about growing your own food. So definitely, we're going to learn a lot about agriculture. We're going to learn a lot about growing your own food. We're going to learn a lot about farming and what you could do if you live in the projects, which most of us are living. If you live in an urban area, which a lot of us are living. But that doesn't mean that you can't grow food. All right? Beloved, you have to request to go live with me, beloved. You have to request to go live with me. Let me see if I can send you an invite. Hold up real quick. I got my guests coming on in. So that you tell a friend to tell a friend. All right. Peace, big bro.
Peace, fam. How are you?
Man, all is well, beloved. All is well, man.
Yeah.
Everything is good at your end?
Indeed. It's good to be here. I was hearing everything you were saying, before I tapped in, and, you're right on point. Giving thanks for the connection, the platform to be able to talk about these things, because they need to be talked about.
Man, I was just warming them up for you, beloved. I was just warming them up for you. I know you're going to hit them with some hard facts. I know you're going to hit them with the truth. And for today's episode 28, man, this is just about education. This is what my platform is about, education. This is just about learning, as I was just saying before you came on. Man, we can't talk about freedom without mentioning agriculture, right? Because agriculture is the core of freedom. We can't call ourselves being free if we're eating junk food. We can't call ourselves being free if we're depending on the system to feed us. That's not freedom to me.
Nah, it's deep, man. You know, there's, like you said, there's no culture without agriculture. So for us to really connect to our roots, that's what we're gonna have to get into. There's a lot of disconnection that happened with us in agriculture over time, you know, and now's the time for us to reconnect. You gotta understand that to not grow your own food is, like you said, it's a freedom, because the opposite of freedom, right, is in slavery. And right now, the system, society, we enslaved because we don't have any options, or we don't even understand what's going on with the food system. I'm gonna tell you, because I'm in my lane, I've been able to be privy to information that's not surface information as far as what's going on with the food system. You know, when we talk about GMOs, we talk about pesticides, but not just pesticides, but specific, pesticides like glyphosate and atrazine that are having a detrimental effect. And we're talking about the amounts of it that's sprayed, that's being used, billions of tons, that's ending up not just in the food, it's destroying the soil, it's ending up in the waterways, and at the end of the day, it's ending up in us. And there's a direct correlation between when these things were done to our food and the things that we see happening health-wise in our community. Everything from autism, Parkinson's disease, a lot of immune deficiencies. What's the other one? Alzheimer's. All these things are tied into these chemicals that's being used, food that was changed. Like I said, it's a direct correlation. So as we become more aware of that, it's like knowledge is power, but only if you apply it. So it's like we don't want to just sit there and complain. We want to be solution driven, and the solution is to be able to do for self. Like you said, people talk all the time about getting to the bag and creating multiple streams of income. Like, if something happens to this job, I got this flow. Well, it's the same thing with our food. I mean, it's even more important with our food. And it's like, if something happens, what I'm saying, to our main source, our grocery stores, our restaurants, the trucks that are able to get up and down the road, things that we see happening right now, then we want to be able to have some sort of system or some sort of self-sustainability. But, the first step is to, just like what you're doing right here, plant the seed in the mind. You understand? We start to get this knowledge. So,
Hey, big bro, before we go too far, man, listen, I gotta introduce you right. You feel me? I gotta introduce you right and exact. Like, you can't come on my platform and I not introduce you right and exact. So before we get started, man, family, those who are listening, those who are watching on live, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. This full-blown educational and informative interview will be on our YouTube channel, DTR 360 Books. You can just simply click the link in the bio. You can see our past interviews, and you can see this current interview with Free Haven Farms. Speaking of Free Haven Farms, man, I remember hitting you up. It's like a couple months ago. Just probably, I think around May or June. And I'm like, yo, I love what you're doing. I was always interested, and this is not just something that I just post because it looks good. Like, nah, like if you know me, you know, like when I was living in Brooklyn, I live in Jersey now. When I was living in Brooklyn and I was living in a house, I was renting out a room in a house. Luckily enough, it had a backyard in the back of the house. And I'm like, whoa. And I grew up in a Trini household, right? So I know all about bush. I know all about, seasoning, things of that nature. So when I was living in Brooklyn and I was living on my own, I'm like, yo, like, this is cool. Like, I seen mad plants. I didn't know what it meant, right? But I knew it was herbs, and I knew most of it was good for you, right? Because you have good herbs and you have bad herbs. But in any way, long story short, I grew a love for agriculture. I grew a love for gardening. I grew a love for planting and farming, right? And so that just stuck with me. That just
Yeah.
stuck with me. Anyway, coming up to May 2022, I put on an agricultural event, just for the community and whatnot. And it was around the time I started following this Brother Miciah, which I'm about to introduce now. I hit him up and I was like, yo, again, I love what you're doing. Come rock out with me down in Newark, New Jersey, right? I don't know how far you are, but I know you're in Jersey, right? So Jersey strong, let's connect. And this brother, he couldn't connect, because of his busy schedule, so on and so forth. But I just love what he's doing because he was more knowledgeable and more ingrained into agriculture, into farming, more than I was and I am. And so I'm a student of life, period. So I love when I can learn from other people, especially those who look like myself. I love that I can learn from my big brother, my big sister, and even babies, because babies can teach you things that you may not know. In any case, man, I just want to introduce this good brother, Brother Miciah. He is a business owner. He is a farmer. He is an author. He is a brother, a father, a husband, and so many other things, man. So, family, please welcome me, Brother Miciah of Free Haven Farms.
Yo, peace, peace. Thank you.
Yes, brother.
Humbly, we here, everything come
Yes,
full circle. No,
indeed.
I wanted to be at your event. I was there in spirit, you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
But we here now, everything comes full circle. And one thing you learn out there when you growing food is timing is everything. You know what I'm saying? And I think the timing of this conversation is perfect. You know what I'm saying? We
man.
couldn't line it up any better.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's start it off with your upbringing, bro. I love to hear about my guests' upbringing and background to see where they came from and how they got to where they are today. Right? That's always important.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to look at the destination. I want
Mm-hmm.
to look at the journey. I want to look at the hardships that you had to endure and did overcome.
Mm-hmm.
I want to look at what it took for you to get where you are today, because it wasn't easy, and I know it's still not easy.
Yeah.
So tell us
Uh,
about your upbringing, brother.
yeah. Okay. So we're gonna go a little bit down memory lane.
That's all right.
I was born and raised in Connecticut. You know, a small spot, Waterbury, right in between Hartford and New Haven, and that's where I was raised. And I was raised with a garden in the backyard. I grew up with a big family. I got four older sisters, a younger brother, 6 kids in the house. My mother raised two of her half sisters, so there's 8 kids in the house. You feel me? And basically, just to cut down on the grocery bill, we go shopping and we had 2 carts when we went shopping. And so to cut down on the bill, and really it was just something that my father did. So my father learned how to grow food from his father. And his father
Mm,
learned how to grow food from his father.
wow.
So in my tribe, this is generational knowledge. You know what I
Mm,
mean? So I just grew up. 5 years old, 7 years old. I wrote, a book, Farmolosophy, and in the front of the book, I have some pictures in there, and one of the pictures, me and my first garden. I was about 7 years old, and so my chores at the time, of course, I didn't see the value in it. I wanted to be at the park playing ball. So when I came home from school, I had to weed, I had to water, I had to harvest, had to do this stuff, mix the manure in, till the soil, all this stuff. And, I wanted to play. But it instilled in me 2 things, like early, like being able to work, a work ethic, being able to work with my hands, work with nobody there, like looking over my shoulder. Like my dad would just give me a to-do list. Like, this is what you got to do before you go to the park. And if I get home, you at the park and the list ain't done, I'm coming to pick you up. You know the drill.
right.
And so I was on a tightrope, but it you know, like I said, working with your hands, working hard, working outside, working up a sweat. I work with children now in school with gardens. You know what I mean? We got our urban gardens in Philly. We work with kids. We work with kids in Camden doing urban gardening. And the thing is, like, you would be surprised how many, not just youth, but adults, like, yo, they can't really stay outside for more than a couple hours. You know, the heat, the bugs, you know what I'm saying? It just, it's uncomfortable. And so we really become detached from nature over time. And like I said, I didn't see the value in it. I was just doing it. It was my chores. I wanted to get to the park. As I got older, I saw like, oh man, I had a valuable foundation, you know. And so that's how I started planting, growing, knowing how to work the land, just doing basic things. But I got my first job on a farm. So I started working at 12 years old, which nowadays is like a foreign thing. But like growing up, people would get summer jobs all the time. Like young guys would get summer jobs. We'd be out there hustling. Like I said, I grew up in Connecticut, so in the winter, I was shoveling driveways and sidewalks for some dollars.
I remember those days.
You feel me? And then, you know, in the summertime, I had a little summer job. You know, so I would work at this farm. This cat, my parents were real religious, so the church they went to, the congregation. There's a man that was there that had a farm. He was a farmer. He had a construction company. And so he gave me a summer job. John, you know, John Simpson, old dude. I mean, old cowboy dude. Cowboy boots, belt buckle, big farm hat, cowboy hat and stuff. But he was actually a solid guy. And he showed me a lot about growing food. I was driving a tractor at 13 years old and just doing certain things because of working in that environment on a farm early, that I understood two things. How this guy was able to get to the bag, because he created, really at the end of the day, I understood $1 million farm industry and construction industry off of that 16 acres of land that I was working on. And it was from scratch. He didn't, he got his a little bit out the mud. This was during the wartime. And this ties into another story, but there was victory gardens that was happening during the wartime when a certain amount of money was given to people to grow their own food in this country. And so he was working a lot of land because a lot of the older men were in the war, and he was young. He was 18. It was 17. He couldn't get into the war, so he was out there building these farms. And he started his business from there. So it was like two things. Like, okay, I see I can have my own business. And the other thing is my own, if I have the land, then I can have the money. You know, I can get to it. So I worked that job from 12 to 18 years old. And I decided, I went to a trade school. So in Connecticut, you have vocational trade schools. So working with my hands early, I knew that, boom, I wanted to have a trade. I didn't want to go to college. I want to fill in the institution, the system, paying all that money. Early, I was like, nah, that's not for me. So my folks was like, all right, you got to learn a trade then. So I went to a trade school. I studied plumbing and heating. All right, so when I finished high school, I had a apprentice, plumbing apprentice. I went and I got a journeyman license when I was in Atlanta. So as soon as I finished high school, I moved to Atlanta to go ahead and get my journeyman's license in plumbing, right? So this is when I kind of got away from the farm, because I was working on the farm from 12 to 18. I graduated high school. I want to go get to the bag. And so I ended up being in Atlanta because, like, you know, I was young, and Atlanta had all the buzz going on. You know, this is right after Freaknik days. So, you know, I was 20 years old when I moved down there. And when I got there, I started plumbing right away, making money, doing my thing with the houses. And I fell in love. I met my queen. You know, she was going to Georgia Tech University. She was in grad school. She was studying to get her doctorate degree in geochemistry, which plays a part later on in my story. All right. But we ended up buying a house in Atlanta and having our first child. Now, at the time, the teachings, Dr. Sabi was still alive. And so his teachings were like, we were watching all his videos, you know, all his YouTube videos, you know, Dr. Layla Africa, you know, Queen of Four, You
In the
know,
form, yeah.
we reading her, my queen reading her books. We had a home birth. You know, I caught my first child, cut the umbilical cord. We was like, nah, we staying roots with it, you know?
Mm.
And we wanted to, you know, we were understanding this thing about food and how much it was messing up our diet, but not just
Mm.
that, but making us sick in our
Right. In
mind.
the minds, yes.
You see what I'm saying? And so as we
Mm.
started to understand that, I was able to connect all these dots because I had my first youth. I was in my late 20s, right? So I understood all these bad decisions I had made in my early 20s because I was eating crazy. You gotta
Mm.
understand, I wasn't raised in
Okay.
no vegetarian house. You kidding me? My mother used to eat pork chops like once a week. She was
Mm.
cooking those things, fried chicken. My dad slab of ribs. I ate. You know, I was fed everything growing up. Hot
Wow.
dogs,
Okay.
you name it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know nothing about eating healthy. All right. So this is a part of the journey that a lot of people can relate to because you only know what you're taught. You know, and
Right.
lots of times what we inherit is eating habits. So I was eating like I was taught, like I was fed. You know what I'm saying? As soon as I got on my own, that's how it was. But as soon as I started to get some knowledge about, no, if you eat this, it's going to lead to that. You understand? This is where we getting diabetes from. This is where we
Oh yeah.
getting obesity from. This is why all these dudes after 30 years old got beer bellies and receding hairlines and can't get their jaunt hard because they off. And I was like, I'm listening to these conversations and it's making sense because I could understand certain things that was happening in my family. And I think a lot of us went through health trauma, you know what
Mm.
I'm saying, in our families. We grew up seeing aunts get cancer. I saw my aunts get breast cancer, have breast removed. I saw one of my aunts have diabetes so bad she had to have a leg amputated. You understand? Like,
Right.
and I remember being in, my mother did home health care, so she took care of her. So I remember being there as a kid, like
Right.
just seeing this stuff and not really understanding like what in the how. Because Aunt Dolly used to be the life of the party.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I started to understand, yo, like this thing right here is because of this food that we being fed and not knowing that if we over a prolonged period of time continue to put certain things in our body, it will guarantee lead to this, that, and the third. I was like, okay, that's it. That's it. I'm not having it. I'm switching it all the way up. My kids, they ain't hearing, they ain't gonna see none of that, you know. And so my queen was on the same type of time. Actually,
Right.
she was already eating raw and everything. Right. And
Ah.
so she started putting me on to eating raw and stuff. And
Indeed.
so we started buying organic. I was like, yo, that's it. The only thing we're gonna buy is organic. And so we used to go to
Indeed.
Whole Foods to buy, or at the time, Whole Foods was the only place that had organic food.
Mm.
And we would go there. We used to call the joint whole check because we would legit spend a whole check at the store trying to
Wow.
buy some organic food. And when we looked at the numbers in the grocery bill, and we was like, yo, our biggest overhead is, you know, our mortgage and this
Food.
grocery bill. I was like, I can grow all this food in the backyard because we had a little backyard there in Atlanta. I had a
Okay.
nice, we were on like a 1/4 acre plot in the backyard. It was overgrown with some stuff called kudzu. That's another story. But I had a backyard. I said I could plant all this.
Mm-hmm.
Queen didn't know I could grow food because she knew me as a plumber.
Right.
So I had to go ahead and work the magic. And I grew so much food out that backyard that I was giving it away, you know, and really, so my youth from day one, they were in the backyard with me from day one. They've been eating food that I grow, you know,
Nice.
and that's what started the journey. That's what, I mean, as far as like Free Haven Farms, you know,
Right.
understanding, living off the land, having intention about our diet, and eventually educating other people about it too.
Man, wonderful, wonderful, man. Man, so first thing, I just love how you was inherited into farming and agriculture through your father. And your father was inherited into farming through his father, and so on and so forth. So um, that's that's a peculiar thing because like we don't hear about that kind of stuff, right? And obviously, like, many of us do, we deviate away from the things that will help us in the long run, and that will cure us and cure our people. But fortunate enough, you found your way back to your foundation, and you was able to um, heal yourself, and in healing yourself, you was able to heal other people again through the foundation upon which you grew up on.
Yeah, man.
So
It's deep. And you know, in retrospect, when I think about it, bro, because there's always this balance, these polarities. You know, people call it the yin and the yang. They call it all these different things, right? But there's always a balance of polarity. So on one end, like I said, I was kind of taught to eat crazy growing up. But on the other end, I was taught to learn how to grow, not just grow food, but be in nature. Like, spend a lot of time in the woods, camping, fishing, you know, being in nature. So I think that along the journey, we're always gonna have these polarities of the bad stuff that we get that we gotta sift through, you know, and find the richer things, you know, to hold on to. But
yeah,
we still learning, bro.
yeah, indeed, indeed. Shout out to my brother Chris. I'm not sure if he's still on this live, but shout out to my brother Chris, Brooklyn, New York. Um, Speaking of Brooklyn, man, I grew up in
Right
Flatbush,
on.
Brooklyn, right? And you already know, in the quote unquote hood, it's all the same, right? You grew up in Connecticut, and then you was in West Philly and so forth, Jersey, Newark, Irvington, same ish, right? We have food deserts. We
Yeah.
have, we don't have fruits and vegetables at our disposal. We're living in urban cities, right? So again, we don't even think to buy fruits instead of dollar french fries. Well, back in the days, remember them dollar french fries from the Chinese store and so forth, ketchup and hot sauce and all that. So we don't even think to buy fruit and vegetable instead of french fries, to buy a fruit bowl instead
Yeah.
of this greasy pizza. So talk about for the people, talk about for the people that don't have gardens, right?
Mm-hmm.
That don't
Mm-hmm.
have houses,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of us do have houses, but again, we don't even have a backyard in the back of our house.
Yeah.
So talk about that and tell us, brother, how can we, for those who are interested, begin to grow food in our apartments and houses?
That's a good question, bro. So I'm gonna get back to my journey just a little bit to tie
Yes,
into
sir.
this question. So after we left Atlanta, after we had our second child, we moved to Philadelphia. We first moved to Germantown, lived in Germantown for I don't know, good 5 years. We had our last child in that house. And it's a row house, tiny row house, small backyard. Actually, in that one, I didn't have any front yard at all. I had a very tiny backyard, like 8 feet by 8 feet, a little square.
Mm,
But we was already in this thing, bro. We was already like, this is our lifestyle. This is a
right.
lifestyle. My children knew about planting, watering, harvesting. We was growing in the way, harvesting stuff, storing it in the freezer so we could eat our vegetables throughout the winter. We already had a system, and we weren't going to change it up just because we relocated. And so what we
Right.
did is we grew that whole backyard there in Germantown. And once again, I planted more food than we could eat in that little space. And I had to use every single inch of that space. Now, one thing, like I said, that worked out with my advantage is that my queen, being a geochemist, one of her main focuses and study was lead in the soil. All right.
Ah,
So that's we test lead at Free Haven Farms for people. That's one of the first things that people need to do before they grow their food outside when you're in the city is you need to test your soil and see if you have any lead contamination or if you have any arsenic in the soil. Things like that could be very dangerous. They can be taken up by the plants and indeed ingested when we eat them. And so we want to avoid that because, lead's a neurotoxin, can be very dangerous to us. But even if you have that situation, because we did have lead in certain situations, like we read the soil and it was like, nah, we didn't like that. And so we amended the soil. We removed the bad soil. You understand? We created a barrier between that with either burlap or cardboard, and we built up new soil that's living soil that's full of the nutrients that your plants need to be healthy. Stuff like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. We are able to put that in the soil. And the thing is, once you get the soil right, you can grow anything, anywhere. The soil is the magic. The plants eat from the soil because the roots are sitting in the soil. And as long as that soil has that nitrogen, that phosphorus, that potassium, that calcium, that iron, all those things that they need to be healthy. And plants are so much like us because they have different personalities. Okay. So what I need to be healthy is not the same thing that you or the next person may need to be healthy. I might need more calcium in my diet or more zinc or whatever based on how my chemistry is, how I'm made up, right? And the next person might need something else. The same thing with the plants. Each plant has a different personality. Some of them need more sun. Some of them need a deeper pot because the roots go down deep. So they can't be in the small. And so as you start to understand that, okay, I need to just have good soil and I need to be able to cater to the needs of the personality of that plant. I came up with an acronym called LAWS. All right, I'm going to drop one on you right quick. I'm getting a little bit off topic. But for you to be able to grow your food healthy, you need to obey the laws of plant happiness. All right? If your plants are happy, they're going to give you what you need. It's just like people. If you're not happy, you're not going to be productive. If you're not in your zen, if you're not in your peace, you're not going to be at your best. And at the moment that you're able to find your contentment, your happiness, that's when you're able to be most productive. And it's the same thing with the plants. And the way that we're able to make them happy is by attaining to the laws. LAWS. And plants need to be happy: light, air, water, and soil. And the light comes from the sunlight. Or if you're growing indoors, because you're asking about growing in apartments, and we set up indoor gardens all the time in apartments with grow lights that are able to give the correct spectrums of light that those plants need to be healthy. Technology's come a long way. They make LED lights now. You don't even have to get the big old hot ones. They make LED lights that actually give concentrated spectrums of light that these plants need for their photosynthesis to be able to grow. So you can grow them indoor. We build grow tents inside people's house. You can put it in your closet. If you have a room that's a room, even a regular bedroom, same size as a dresser. You can put a grow tent the same size as a dresser right in your room. And inside your grow tent, you have your lights, you have your pots, your containers that have the good soil, you have your plants growing, right? And that might be an option for how you get started. Everyone's circumstances are different. Sometimes when you're in an apartment, you have a staircase, and you could use those. What we do in our classes that we teach online is give people options so that, because there's more than one way all the time. So when you're in an apartment, there's more than one way to grow food. All right. Some of the creative things that I was able to do in Philadelphia, beyond just growing inside my small space, right, I had a vacant lot across the street from me. So I started maintaining the vacant lot. I started trimming it, mowing it, cutting it back because it was just overgrown.
Okay.
I had an agenda the whole time.
Right.
And so I cleared the lot, kept it clean. The neighbors see me taking care of it. They happy that I'm out there doing it. Okay. Now, the minute this lot gets overgrown, I can call the city on who owns that property, and they can get fined for that.
Wow.
Okay?
For not
So
taking care of it.
for not taking care of it, for not maintaining it. And so what they do is they have to pay people to either come and take care of it, or they're going to get fined and they're going to have to pay that fine. But either way, they're going to have to come out of pocket, because a lot of times in Philadelphia, these row house, people that own those properties don't live anywhere near them, right?
Right.
And so I was like, well, I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to get in touch with them. I'm going to tell them that I'm going to maintain it. I got this. And now, as I start to take care of it, every time I'm out there, I'm tilling the soil right here. I'm mixing in a little compost. I'm building a little raised bed. By the end of the summer, I had more food growing on that vacant lot than I had in my front and backyard.
Mm.
You
Because it was
understand?
bigger.
It's much bigger. It's much bigger. You know, I fenced it in. You know, I got in touch with, like I said, the people that own the property. I told them what I want to do. I said, I'm going to maintain that spot. I got a couple of things I want to grow over there. And didn't have any problem with it. And for me, I just wanted to grow the food. I had a platform to be able to teach my kids. I said I wasn't even selling produce too hard at the time. I was just giving it away to the community, taking care of people. But we grew, oh my goodness. I mean, we grew a lot of food over there. That was in West Philly at that time.
Can you name some of the food that was grown?
Over there in West Philly, let's see. I had collard greens, of course. We grow all of our greens. We love greens. We grow a lot of
Yeah.
brassicas. So kale, collard
Green
greens, spinach, cabbage. We grow a lot of herbs. Herbs be like stuff like basil, you know,
Right.
rosemary,
Yeah.
lavender.
Thyme.
Absolutely. A lot of thyme, oregano. You know,
Right.
those are some of the herbs just off of the top. Fruits,
Dandelion.
huh?
Dandelion.
Yeah, dandelion, you know, it's one thing that we never really plant too much, but it
Yeah.
grows
Okay.
natural. You know,
Yeah, I be drinking that a lot.
we got a lot of dandelion. I have over at the farm over here in Jersey, because we're in South Jersey now. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Right in Camden County.
Okay.
And we got an acre farm there. That's where Free Haven Farms is at. And we have a lot of dandelion that just grows native. This is what we call indigenous, native.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Vegetation that was there before us. So I
Right.
got tons of mullein leaf that grows out there too. So we sell mullein leaf tea kits. You could find some of those on our site. But these indigenous things, like you said, are extremely medicinal. You know, mullein leaf, dandelion. Man, you take a walk out there, and we get to
Peppermint.
talking about it. Yeah, we have a lot of mint that grows. We have a few different varieties of mint that we grow. You gotta be careful with mint; it likes to take over. So you gotta, you know, kind of have a game plan with it. Otherwise, it'll be everywhere.
Indeed. Indeed.
But
Indeed.
but no, listen. I think that a lot of times people doubt themselves in terms of being able to grow food because of three things: not having enough time, not having enough space, and not having the knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what we do at Free Haven Farms is we try to address those three things and help people figure out how to find time to maintain a garden by
Yeah.
helping you formulate a schedule, helping you figure out what kind of garden is best for your space and for what it is that you want to achieve. It's just about starting. It's just
Right.
about planting that seed. There's some people that take our classes. We have a class right now that we do every week called Recession Gardens, where I record all the lessons on the farm. And then we put together a curriculum, like I said. So the queen's a professor. She's a university professor. So she likes to put these beautiful
Curriculum.
curriculums together,
Yeah.
you know, syllabus that's going to drive the point home. And what I do is I record the videos at the farm where I could show you hands-on how to do certain things, use certain tools, all the things that come with being able to grow your food. Everything from container stuff, like I said, to raised beds, to in-ground, you know. And I think that one of the things that I had growing up, because I did learn from my father and this other old head, was a mentorship. So someone was able to guide me. You
Okay.
understand? Someone was able to coach me through the process, show me where I went, because this is hands-on.
Right.
you're gonna learn a lot from the mistakes you make. There's no losses, only lessons.
Man, not to cut you off, but it's funny you mention that because I mean, I've always said that, you know, we as African Black people, we do a lot of things individualistically, right? So, and we learn by trial and error because there's no one else to mentor us. There's no one else to give us the gems. There's no one else to basically coach us through the process. So we have to learn on our own, and we have to learn through trial and error, which takes a longer process in getting to the goal and accomplishing what we're trying to accomplish.
That's it.
Needless to say, you had a mentor, which is profound. If you can speak on that a bit, how beneficial was your mentor, and what did you learn
Yeah, man.
while
No.
while being the mentee? Because I know now you're like the mentor to other people who are now coming up.
Yeah, yeah. That's how that goes, you know. But it was key, man. It was everything. Um, you know, African tradition. You know,
Yeah,
we learn through oral. You know what I mean? We learn through just observation. I learned from old school guys that was like, I don't want to show you more than once. Pay attention.
yeah,
You ain't gotta take no notes, ain't no video. You gotta watch, you gotta pay attention to details. And if you don't understand, you have to be intelligent and courageous enough to ask a question.
yes,
So till you understand. Because you know that when that man walks away, he's gonna expect that you understood that. And if you mess it up, that's on you. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? And so I think growing up like that it made me develop create what do they call critical thinking. It made
yes,
me really, really develop critical thinking and being able to adapt and adjust. Like farming is a lot of that. You can't
mm,
predict what the weather's gonna be. You know what I'm saying? I got days that's supposed to rain and it's hot, hot. I'm in a heat wave right now.
right,
I got times that I think, you know, it's gonna be hot and I get tons of rain, you know, so it's unpredictable. I deal with elements like so you know, I before when we first moved out there, we had to deal with a lot of deer that would jump over 6 foot fence like nothing. I didn't know that. I had to figure that out the hard way.
mm,
You
mm,
know, and then I've had groundhogs. I mean, these are curveballs that could really, but the thing is, we were able to get through each moment. Like
exactly.
now the deer can't get in my spot because I learned from the time they did. You see what I'm saying? So it's all part of the journey. There's no losses, there's only lessons, and you'll get better. Like anything, you're gonna get better over. I think that anything we do at first scares us sometimes, and it looks harder than it is. So the first time you pick up an instrument, I don't care if it's Beethoven, I don't care who it is, Fela. First time he picked up a guitar, touched the piano, he didn't know nothing. It sounded like terrible. And it was through practice and repetition and time. And then all of a sudden he was a master of that thing, you know. Like riding a bike, petrified to take the training wheels off. But you can't even really remember that time that you were scared to ride a bike. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with growing food. Like it's second nature to me now. It's
Mm,
just my queen says I think like a plant, and maybe I do. You know what I'm saying? Because there's an energy, there's a language to the plants that you tap into after you work with them enough.
mm.
And George Washington Carver would
Man, I was
speak.
just thinking about him.
Yeah, he would speak about speaking to the plants and
Yeah.
listening to the plants, and there's a lot of truth to that because these plants are just one big column of energy. They're so similar to us, like I said. Um, when I deal with those elements of plant happiness, they pertain to us too, because those plants need light, that's sunlight. We need sunlight too, especially if you're melanated. A lot of our sickness has to do with being vitamin D deficient.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Sabi, Dr. Layla Africa would say, if you could just be in the sun at least 2 hours a day, you're gonna get your daily dose of vitamin D that you're supposed to get. But how many of us can't be in the sun for 2 hours?
We scared of the sun. That's what it is.
You know what I mean? So we gotta get over that. You can't garden, you can't farm, you can't grow your own food until you get over that. And it's okay because we got work to do. You take baby steps, you crawl before you could walk, before you could run. But you gotta understand that I need to get over there. I need to
Right.
get over there. You understand? And
Right.
and not being okay with being outside isn't okay. So when I work with the kids and they spaz out every time a butterfly goes by, and they have a nervous breakdown anytime a bee comes by, I just help them to understand, because lots of times fear has to do with lack of education, lack of knowledge. And so once they understand, look, if that bee stings you, it's gonna die. Like literally, it's a kamikaze ride for that guy. He stings you, stinger goes in you, he's out. It's a last resort. He's working, not thinking about you. Yada yada yada. But as you understand what these things are doing in nature, you know what I'm saying? Even as you understand what's happening when you sweat, you out there sweating and you
Yeah.
hot. That's a good thing. Like your
Right.
body's opening up, it's releasing toxins.
Right.
You getting rid of all the BS. You gonna be lighter. Like
Right.
you worried
If you're
about the,
not,
you know what I mean?
if you're not sweating in the summertime, that's a problem. If you're not sweating in the summertime, that's a problem.
Say it again. You
For
know.
real. For real.
But I think that these are the things, the hidden gems of growing your own food that people don't talk about and that you don't necessarily see at the surface. We think about the food and the organic produce and all that is, trust me, it's A1 and it's the foundation. But the hidden gems is every time you put your hands in the dirt, you're grounding yourself.
Mm.
The hidden gems is there's literally bacteria inside of the soil that acts as the same way Prozac would affect your system. You understand? It releases dopamine and serotonin within your body from just having your hands interact with these certain bacteria that are in the soil. This isn't me. This is science that's proven this, you know? And so when we look at where we are in the state of affairs today and all the reasons why, I feel at the root, a lot of it has to do with just our disconnect with nature.
Yes.
And when we talk about agriculture, that was the beginning of our relationship with nature. You understand? Because nature was doing agriculture before we ever got here. It just wasn't organized. But the plants were growing and the fruits were coming and they would fall to the ground and the seeds would enter into the soil from decomposition and they would grow more trees.
Right.
And the animals would eat the fruits that were most desirable, and nature would make them desirable and bright colors and real sweet. And they would eat that fruit and they would go, and when they pooped it out over around the corner, they planted another tree every time. You know what I'm saying? And so nature was already doing this. What man did is we came and we connected with nature. And we were able to say, okay, I could save this seed. I could organize this row right here to grow only squash and some okra over there, you know?
Yeah.
And we built that relationship with nature to the point that it was able to give us food to sustain, and our actual strength, mental, physical, everything is tied into this relationship with our food. And that's the thing. We don't have relationship with our food anymore. People's relationship with the food starts at the restaurant or the grocery store.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. I mean, that's a great point, saying that we've lost our connectivity and our connection with nature. Not only that, we've lost our connection with the food that we eat. We don't even like to eat with our hands, right? Our ancestors back in Africa and even the indigenous people of this land, they ate with their hands. Again, connecting with the universe, connecting with nature, connecting with the food that they prepared. Um, But speaking
Absolutely.
of nature, speaking of agriculture, seeing that this is an educational platform,
Mm-hmm.
for starters,
Mm-hmm.
what is agriculture? Because some people may not even know what agriculture is.
Well, I was just speaking about it a little bit, just talking about our first connection with nature happened through agriculture. When we're able to organize this food, gather food, plant food, grow food. All right. The cultivation, you find it in the word cultivation. And so when you think about being able to cultivate, it's not just the seed sprouting, it's the preparation of the land before you plant the seed. It's being able to maintain the life of that plant as it grows, all the way to the point that you can harvest it, seed to table, you know. Um, and there's many different forms of agriculture. There's
Right,
many different forms of agriculture. The biggest nation is your imagination. Look,
right,
when we start teaching people about how to make money in agro business, in the
right,
agro industry, you would be amazed at all the different ways that people are able to make money and create farms. You really just need to be able to sell $1,000 a year of your produce to have a legitimate farm. This is an area that you don't have to have a degree. You can get into this right away and start to learn some things, but you could start to make some money off of it too right away. We taught a class called Farmonomics, where we broke down a lot of different ways that people could begin to monetize their land. I know it's a land grab, everyone trying to get their hands on some property. But what are you going to do when you get that property? You're going to start growing some food? How? You're not taking a class right now. Like,
right.
prepare yourself now, get the knowledge now so that when you're there, you already have some experience gained. Even if you just grow one container, one plant, you know. Um, Last week I built 2 gardens. Um, so this is another thing that we've we move with the motion, bro. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And just understanding where our people are at and where we are in the stream of time right now. We've been teaching more than ever before
Mm.
in our online
People need it.
classes. Yeah, you
People
know,
need it.
we've been doing virtual consultations, in-person consultations, and we've really started installing, but we've extended our services beyond our region so that we can help people establish growth systems. So we've been building gardens, um, raised bed gardens, in-ground gardens, container gardens, you name it. And so I think that I think that there is an awakening happening right now where people are starting to invest in this knowledge of learning how to grow this food because the thing is, like, the writing's on the wall. All right. And if you understand some of the things, like I said, that's being done with the food, it's not even just like pesticides being sprayed where you could wash your vegetables in a certain way and get a lot of it off. Now things are being done on a level that affects the DNA, the genetics. You know what I'm saying? They have gene silencing mechanisms that they put inside of this food. It's called RNA technology. It's Frankenstein food, man. It's scary. You know what I'm saying, when you're looking at it, and it's nothing that we could take lightly because technology, in agriculture has its limitations. You understand, and so you know we definitely on our side teaching a form of agriculture called regenerative agriculture. And so regenerative agriculture is specific because it focuses on building up your entire ecosystem at the same time. You understand? Like your soil is going to be living, and in turn it's going to attract a lot of the beneficial insects to your garden, to your farm, to your space, to your area. Those good insects are going to they're going to be predators to the bad insects, and they're going to take care of a lot of them. So a lot of the challenges that certain people have with insects, I don't have, just because I'm able to create an ecosystem. You understand that that regenerates, that builds itself over time. We like to say sustainable and attainable, but this this is the way. Like I said, there's different kinds of agriculture. A lot of people call, a lot of different terms. Sustainable agriculture, permaculture, urban agriculture. They come up
You
with a
have
new term
livestock,
every day. Huh?
livestock. You have livestock,
I
which is a
don't
part of
have,
agriculture,
so I don't
right?
have any livestock, but in terms of an investment move, um, it could be a great investment move
It can. It can.
in many different ways. It could be a great investment move, and it's just something that I haven't gotten into right now, but
Okay.
maybe in the future, we might look
Right.
at it.
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed.
There's,
Inshallah.
you talked about Trinidad. You ought to know that goats go heavy in Trinidad on the
Yeah.
islands. And
Goats, chickens,
yeah, and they're good on the farm because they mow down your weeds. You know what I'm saying? And they help nitrate your soil. You know what I'm saying? When they go to the bathroom out there, they eat, and they're all grass fed. For the most part,
right.
when you got them in their pens and stuff. So even if you are not a meat eater, you can still have a lot of benefit to having livestock on your farm. So
Good point.
we definitely teach about how regenerative agriculture and having livestock definitely helps build your ecosystem.
Mm, powerful, powerful. Man, we went over so many different things. I want to take a quick commercial break. Family, if you are now tuning in, definitely click the link in the bio. Click the link in the bio. This interview will be uploaded to YouTube to see the whole interview of Brother Miciah of Free Haven Farms. Definitely click the link in the bio and subscribe to our YouTube channel, DTR 360 Books. Also, you can subscribe to our podcast as well. We're on Spotify, we're on iHeartRadio, we're on Google Podcasts, and soon to be on Apple Podcasts as well. So support. It's free 99. All you need to do is click a button. Also, you can support this good brother that's giving you the knowledge, that's giving you the gems. He has online courses. He has books that we're about to get into. And he has so many other things that you can buy to help yourself be a better self. All right. Because it's all about self elevation. It's all about knowledge of self. And it's all about taking care of self so that you can take care of other people. All right. So he has his IG handle at Freehaven Farms. Make sure that you tap in. Make sure that you tap into the good brother. All right. So I want to switch gears a bit, and I want to talk about the historical aspect of farming and agriculture, if you will. And
Mm,
we went over what agriculture is, which is the practice of cultivating plants and livestock,
mm-hmm,
right? So, man, our ancestors, we was heavenly privy to livestock, to farming, and to agriculture. That's all we knew was agriculture, right?
mm-hmm,
Um, so in 1920, and even before that, about 14 or 15% of all U.S. land was owned by indigenous people, us, right? The original people of this land. But today, in 2022, listen, less than 2% is owned by indigenous people. What happened? And why do you think that there has been such a drastic decline from 1920 to today in 2022?
yeah, man. It's very systematic. You know what I mean? There's no coincidences here. You know, but it's time to reconnect. You know, it's definitely time to reconnect. You gotta understand that when you're dealing with the indigenous people that were here before Columbus, okay, all they knew was nature. That was
Right.
everything. And so their connection to nature, whether they were hunting for the food, and that's the thing is that's why you were asking me earlier about being a vegan, and I guess I would say plant based, but
Yeah,
I
yeah, I
grew
was
I,
gonna get into
I,
that.
I, I grew up fishing. You know, I grew up with a boat. We went out fishing, we caught fish. You know what I mean? We ate the fish we caught, you know. I grew up seeing people raise cattle and then feed it, take care of it like a part of the family, and then slaughter it at the end of the year and then feed them for the whole year, you know. Um, so to me, you know, people that choose to, you know what I'm saying, eat meat and they choose to hunt, that's a different connection to their food, right?
Yeah, yeah, that is different.
You know, people that choose to eat fish and they go and they fish and catch the fish, that's a different connection to the food. I'm not saying um either is better or worse. I'm just talking about this relationship to our food that has been disconnected, you know. And so, you know, once upon a time when you know, you look at the like I said, pre those ships coming, that was the way that all the communities thrived and everything was aligned. Even when you farming, you know, you're planting according to moon cycles. You understand, when there's a full moon and when there's a new moon, when there's a waning moon and a waxing moon, and the best times to plant certain things, you
Right.
know. And just having the understanding as a farmer, you got to also be an astronomer, you know, to protect your food. Even right now, I don't hunt animals, but I know a lot about them because I protect my food from them all the time.
Right, right. You have
So
to.
I gotta
You
know, I
have to.
gotta know the nature of the beast, you know. And so I think that when we look at the things that have been lost because of industrialization, you know, commercialism, buildings, development, a lot of land that used to be nature is now buildings, you know. So even accessibility to nature is less than what it used to be, you know. And then technology has taken so many advances, you know, that when you look at modern day, you know, just kind of going back to your question and why maybe things aren't, you don't see as many of our culture growing food right now. These are some of the modern day challenges, you know. And of course, you can get into the days of slavery. You can get into that. You can talk about forced labor, being forced to grow food, and sharecropping and all those things. You know, that was definitely something that I feel created another level of disconnect from agriculture for some of the people that, you know, exist over here in the country.
Mm. Man, I just want to build on that real quick. I just want to build and come from a different perspective, right? So when you think about land, you think about ownership. Land is
Mm-hmm.
ownership, right?
Mm-hmm.
With land you own, and with ownership equals assets,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so according to my knowledge and according to my research, these so-called slave owners and these Europeans, obviously, they did not want us to own land and to
Mm-hmm.
not accumulate any assets,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they
Mm-hmm.
was the ones who was trying to grab up all the land so that they can have all the assets, and they did not want us to be equal to them. So that's one. Second thing is that the accumulation of assets equals wealth. And again, what do you do with wealth? You can pass it down from generation to generation. So what your brother Makai, what your great grandfather did was pass down wealth, right? And what you're doing now is you're continuing to pass down wealth through your sons and through your daughters. So this is a peculiar situation that is still happening today, but it's not happening enough, unfortunately. Um, One more thing I want to mention on the decline of land ownership and not being curious and interested in agriculture. You also mentioned the connectivity, right? Also, through the connectivity or through the disconnectivity is the lack of knowledge that we have not been interested in through agriculture. Even today, this is why I had you define what is agriculture, because we may have heard the word before, but we don't know what it is. We may have heard the word before, but we don't know the definition of that word. So again, my thing is always educating and making sure that we know certain terms so that we don't get fooled, right? Intellectual property is key. Um, Marcus Garvey said, "May Allah be pleased with him." He said that they can take your bodies, but they can't take your mind. So when I was growing up in the 90s, I heard, man, a mind is a powerful thing to waste. I'm gonna say that again. A mind is a powerful thing to waste. Nowadays, we don't even say that phrase anymore. But I just say that to say that your mind is one of the most powerful muscles that you have on your body, right? A lot of us, we want to make sure that we look good. We want to make sure that we take care of our outer appearance, but we don't want to take care of our inner appearance, huh? We don't want to take care of our minds. We don't want to take care of our spiritual aspect of our bodies, of our vessel, okay? In the Bible, it said that the kingdom of heaven is dwell within you. So we have to make sure and take care of our kingdom, the inner part of our kingdom. So we have to make sure and connect that through our roots, right? Through our roots. We talk about connectivity. We have to make sure and be connected with our roots, just like how the plants are connected through roots. Just like nature is connected through roots. And if we want to be a part of nature, we also have to be connected through roots so that we can stay sustainable and so that we can stay, as you say, Brother Miciah, stay grounded and stay rooted in our square so that we can continue to elevate. And as the saying goes, elevation causes expansion. So we want to make sure and elevate so that we can expand onward and upwards through higher knowledge and higher education. Because education is what is going to get us through these hard, trying times.
Facts,
So
bro. That's a
I
fact.
digress, brother. I digress. So speaking of land ownership, right? We know I know you heard that Bill Gates, he bought a lot of land in the US. I forgot the number, but it's in a six-figure, some odd number of 200,000 acres of land throughout the US. What's your take on that, beloved?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's all about control. You know what I'm saying? Which is important. That's why it's so important for us to be able to control our assets, you know what I'm saying, and our essentials. Food's one of the main essentials, and that water you drinking. These are essentials. We gotta be able to control these things as much as we can. It's Monopoly. He played the game of Monopoly. You know what it is. Like, yeah, I buy this up, you can't land on it without paying me.
Mm.
And so it's a money move, but it's a little deeper than that. You know what I'm saying? Because controlling, farmland is to control the food. And you got to understand, that, yeah, there's a lot of money that's tied up in farming, a lot of
Mm.
money, billions of dollars, trillions of dollars tied up in farming. And then a lot of policies that are tied into farming.
Mm.
And policies, man, it gets deep. It gets deep.
It's political.
It
It's
gets
definitely political.
it definitely gets political. And so at the end of the day, I think that we could learn a lesson in terms of setting ourselves up in a way that we could also own our little piece of land. Um, when I was in a row house, when I was living in an apartment, I was dealing with my circumstances, but that wasn't the end of this. That wasn't the end goal. I was like, I'm here, but the goal is to have a piece of land so I could control my food.
Right.
And I happened to get a land that had a well on it, so I control my food and my water.
Yes.
Okay. So for me, I knew that, and this is the thing that people got to understand on this journey, is that you can't put the cart before the horse. The first thing you need to do is sit down and have a clear plan and understand the steps involved and what you have to do to get to where you're trying to go. So to get this freedom that you're talking about and this self-sustainability that you're talking about, it's a process. For me, myself, I didn't know anything about credit. I
Mm.
had to start learning about credit when I was in Philadelphia. I had to start getting my credit right. I
Mm.
took an online course. I'll never forget. I took an online course from a brother, and he taught me a lot. And I
Mm.
fixed my credit,
Mm.
and then I went for it. And then we went and we had to save up some money to put a down payment. We searched around. We had to go through all these steps to get our piece of property that became Free Haven Farms. It took
Mm.
some time, but we had a clear vision on the process, and we didn't want to stay in where we were at. You know what I
Okay.
mean? We didn't want to stay living in a row house and have a small and worry about farming on a vacant lot across the street. No, we want a little bit more control than that.
Right.
But it was attainable. And I think that it's attainable for anybody who has a plan. What we had to do and for ourselves to make it happen is we had to be disciplined.
Mm.
We had to be strategic. So we came up with a plan and then we stuck to it. We came up with a schedule and we stuck to it. We wouldn't let nothing take us off of our schedule. And it's important to just, understand what makes you less disciplined and understand what makes you more disciplined. If anyone's ever trained martial arts before, when you train, it's going to spill over into other facets of your life. And you might find that that's when you're the most disciplined, in other aspects. It's the same thing about this thing here. Like, you can get to it. What I mean? You can get your piece of land. You can start growing your food. And if you can start growing your food, then you can monetize your land. You could make the value of your land triple over. What we paid for in our property, within 2 years, we made that back.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So it was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And then when we got there, we saw, wow, now that we have control of this space, look at all these other opportunities that we never would have had before us if we didn't. There's a thing that we do in farming, expression, we could say cut to regrow. So you got to prune the trees. So sometimes you got to you got to cut to regrow. That means that we might not go on vacation this year, kids. That means y'all might not get no new sneakers this year because we saving for something better right now.
Mm.
You understand? And then reaching your goal so that they see that, yeah, the process and this is what we make happen.
Man, you mentioned discipline, patience, more than one time. in this interview, and I see that with you having discipline, patience, you need that to be a farmer, or you just need that in order to grow plants and in order to grow crops, right? Because we are living in a day and age where we want instant gratification. We want this microwavable success. We want this. We want it now, not now, but right now, right? We want success now. We want money now, but we don't want to, as you say, we don't want to go through the process of receiving that money. We don't want to go through the process of receiving success, and we don't want to go through the process of growing foods and so forth. But like for me also, I don't. I talk. I preach. I teach what I preach, right? So I also have my pot plant here, right? And so for those who are on IG Live or even YouTube, you can see, right? It's dirt. So I'm not fronting. Like this is dirt. It's probably the sun, but you can't really see. But it's dirt. It's a pot plant, and I've been growing it since my event, since my agricultural event. We the people who was in attendance, I gave out free pot plants and giveaways so that they can get started, right? And that's the whole thing. Just get started and learn as you go, right? So I see, I planted seeds and so forth. What I can say is that I need to water it more often, but it's basically the same. I don't see any sprouts growing. I don't see anything. It looks the same as it did a couple of months ago. And yes, I started late because I know like harvesting season is more like in the beginning of springtime. Brother, can you give me and some of the people who may be in my position of starting out with a pot plant, but it's not growing anything, and we're like, yo, what's happening? Why it's not growing?
Yeah,
Can you
I
give us some
mean,
advice, brother?
yeah, I mean, it could be any number of things, and what I'm gonna say is, bro, you need to really go ahead and get in my recession garden class, all right? Because we were thorough. You know what I'm saying? It's a 1 hour session. We put up a new video every week, and we did container gardens, and we had a lot of information in there that's gonna help you beyond what I'm gonna tell you right now, because I gotta go get my son to where he's going. I just looked at my watch.
Yes,
I got
sir.
into the conversation,
Yeah, yeah.
but nah. So a few things. I don't know what you planted. What you have? What kind of seeds you have in there?
Sure. I forgot. I think it was pepper. I
Uh-huh.
did some pepper and like some sage, and that's
Okay.
it. I also have a white one too.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you can see it right here, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Did it sprout in that one?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. All right.
Nah,
Do you have holes on the bottom?
I do. Yeah, I
All
put
right.
rocks at the
Okay.
bottom,
Okay.
right,
Right on.
so that when I pour some water in, it'll, seep up the water and so forth.
Yeah. Well, no, it's pepper seeds are very tiny, you know. They germinate, but they don't go deep. Like when you plant pepper seeds, you only plant them about a 1/4 inch deep. So if that's an inch, that's a 1/2 inch, it's half of that. It's a 1/4 inch. So like even how you just pulled the soil out and showed it to me right there, like that's about the depth that you plant the seeds. So when you
Yeah.
plant the seeds, you don't want to disturb the soil, like until they sprout, because you
Mm,
might move them around. You
mm,
know, um, for the seeds to sprout, they need the proper temperature and they need moisture. It's hot out, so I'm sure that you have enough temperature.
right.
If you're not watering it enough, then that can be a problem with your germination. Usually they don't need too much water to germinate, though. They just need to the soil needs to stay moist. It can't dry out. So
Gotcha.
you water it at least once a day. And then the soil that you're using in your cup, um, hopefully it's some soil that is gonna act right for your seed. So you
Yeah.
want soil that's gonna kind of retain some moisture, and have some nutrients in there too, you know. But we start most of our seeds in seed trays, so it's a little bit easier because the seed tray is like, it'll just be a sheet and it'll have all these little holes. It might have 50. I might have a 50 pack for seed trays. One tray like this, and it got all these holes in it, and you fill it up with dirt, and then you put your seed in each one of those little holes. And then you could pay attention to each of them and know exactly when they germinate. You understand? And then sometimes seeds don't germinate. Every once in a while, you might get a bad seed. You might get a runt, a dud. You know what I'm saying? They're called all different things. And so if you got a pack of seeds and you use a seed tray and you plant the whole thing out, then you'll be able to see which ones germinate and which ones don't. You know what I mean? But it's common that you might have a seed that even might have got damaged or something, and that's why it didn't germinate. So what I would recommend is to, if you want to start kind of growing some things out of a container, to also look at getting a seed tray and getting in my Recession Garden class, because I got a video on all this.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, get a seed tray. And the reason why I said get in there, because I was thinking about it. I was like, I gave all these links of where you could order these from, and you could I gave a lot of resources in those classes of the best places that we use to order our stuff from, and stores you might be able to walk into and kind of find what you need. But Amazon's a great resource, you know what I'm saying? And you can find some seed trays, some organic potting soil, and you have some organic non-GMO seeds. You go to town, man. You start germinating some stuff right away.
What is germination?
Germination is when seeds sprout. So when seeds sprout, when the seed becomes alive, when it goes from being a just dormant little round seed to actually being a plant life. When germination happens, it is like birth. It's like a woman giving birth.
All
right. So
from the spiritual to the physical.
Yeah, it is very much alchemy. But yeah, the sprout, the shoot comes out the top, the root goes down low. So two parts come out of the seed. One goes up, one goes down. You got a root that goes down, you got a shoot that goes up. The shoot will eventually get a couple of leaves so that it could gain some energy from the sun. That's photosynthesis. But yeah, man, plants are amazing.
Man, real quick, I know you got I know you got a jet. You mentioned just a bit earlier that you're not vegan, you're plant-based. So talk about your plant-based diet. Or I don't really like to say diet too much, but talk about your plant-based eating habits and what effects and benefits that have on your well-being.
Well, for me, it's like being a farmer. I'm more concerned about the quality of the food than anything,
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because, I'm people gonna tell you all today, eat your vegetables, eat fruit,
Right.
eat your vegetables. You listen to Dr. Sabi, he's gonna tell you, eat fruit, eat your vegetables. You know what I'm saying? This one's more alkaline, this one's less alkaline, a lot of information, right? But I'm a farmer. So I come from a little different perspective than a lot of these food people, because I actually grow this stuff. You understand? And I understand how it's grown. And so a lot of the stuff that people will eat in regards of fruit and vegetables is still very unhealthy because it's GMO, because
It's
it's
been
sprayed,
tampered.
with glyphosate, because it's RNAi, because it's been handled by somebody that has hepatitis and they passed it along to somebody through strawberries. We have over 2,000 foodborne deaths that happen in this country like every year, because of just people being nasty, bad food handling practices. And so it's a little bit more than that. You know what I mean? As I understand more and more that I understand about food, it's you can't just eat your vegetables and you can't just eat your fruit and be okay. Now you got to be careful about which fruit and vegetable you eat, and you got to be very strategic and intentional about trying to eat organic, about trying to eat local, about trying to grow your own food that you can control what goes into the soil. You can control what goes into, people use these fertilizers. Bad news bears, man. People use, you know what I mean? They use herbicides to spray the weeds. Bad news. They use pesticides to spray the insects. Bad news. And so it's a lot more work to do it the way that we do it, grow it organically. And that's why people don't do it. You understand? Yeah, it's more work. It's more labor intensive. But you see what it is. If you're into the business, then you're going to make more money selling organic produce than any other kind of produce, And then when you're looking at the quality in terms of eating, yes, you're going to get all the nutrients that you need from eating a certain kind of produce. Now, we grow our own food. So the advantages of growing your own food is that now you're getting sunlight. I mean, I'm gonna leave this. I'm gonna leave you at this point, and then I gotta kind of hit the road. But
Yeah, I got one more question, brother.
okay, you
Yeah.
got sunlight. So when you eat in sunlight, you're eating food that has been able to get all the nutrients that it needs out of the sun, out of the soil. That's when its maximum ripeness happens. When we're eating produce in the store, it's almost always harvested early to account for the travel time, for the shelf life, for what has to go into the food process of large industrial food industry. The food industry is crazy. Like, I tell people all the time, like farming is really, we've been on the verge of a food shortage for a long time. This isn't nothing new. Okay, only 25% of the farms in America, only 25% of them actually produce food for human consumption. The other 75% produce food for biodiesel, for animal feed, for processed stuff. All right. So you think you got all these farms and all this farmland, but they're not growing food for you to eat. So when you look at how many people got to be fed from that small amount of food that's actually being produced, and then you got 60 to 70% of this food being imported into this country now. So that's a whole nother ball game, and you're dealing with food that's not even from here. So the advantage of eating local, once you understand that, then you'll understand the disadvantage of eating imported. It goes hand in hand, and then, like I said, yeah, it's there's so many advantages that come into growing your own food. And the game that they're playing right now is basically to make money. It's a big money grab. Of the 25% farms that produce food for human consumption, only 2% of them grow organic food. So if you're into organic, only 2% of the farms in this country grow organic food. And as you see these numbers spike, so organic food consumption used to increase 2% every year. That meant like 2%, like every year we'd have 2% more people eating organic. Over the last few years, that has jumped 14%. So people are jumping over to the organic side in droves.
Right.
In droves. But the problem is there's not more organic farms. The government, I mean, the country, there's no money being subsidized, being put into or pushed towards organic farming, regenerative agriculture, healthy farming practices. No, the money goes into the production of corn and soybean and chemical farming. And so now you're going to see a problem happen with supply and demand as more and more people want organic food and less organic farms produce organic food. And that's why it's going to be more and more important for people to start growing their own food and connecting with other people that are doing the same thing so that we can share seeds, we can share knowledge, we can share information, we can share resources, We
Yep.
could build communities of like-minded individuals that are like, hey, you growing corn? Cool. I'm growing tomatoes. Let's, you know what I mean? Let's do a little
Let's
swap.
work together.
Let's
Working
make it
together.
happen. You know, this is
Man,
what our ancestors did.
yeah. I mean, I always say collaboration over competition any day. Right?
Any
This
day.
is why I reached out to you. Like, yo, let's collab. You know what I'm saying? Instead of like we need to compete against, you know what I'm saying, the other
Yeah.
people, and let's work
Facts.
together and build with each other. Um, who are a couple of your ancestors that really give you that motivation
Mm.
to keep going?
We spoke on a couple of them today. Marcus Garvey,
Yeah.
you know, Africa for the Africans. I mean,
Mhm.
he's definite motivation
Yes.
towards how we structure and move within Free Haven Farms. Um, George Washington Carver, we feel like
Mm.
he was monumental in the advancement of agriculture on a
So much.
worldwide level. You
Yes.
know, not just agriculture, but science too.
Yes.
Chemistry. I mean, it's amazing, his story. But yes, we draw a lot of inspiration and knowledge lessons from George Washington Carver as well.
You had a class on George Washington Carver, right?
Yeah, we do every year,
Right.
you know, right?
Right.
You know, to give we gotta give our honor and praise, you know, our ancestors that came before us. So every year around his birthday time in January, we pay our homage to George Washington Carver, pass those lessons. So yeah, we're gonna
Man,
do it again.
yes, yes, yes. Man, that's dope. That's peace. So
Yeah.
before I let you go, tell the people what you have coming up, what you're working on, how can
Mm.
they get in contact with you, and why they should be starting to grow their own food, and why they should be educating themselves on agriculture.
Okay. All right, real quick in a nutshell. You can find this here on IG. Okay, Free Haven Farms, all one word. You see it there on my hat. Okay, Free Haven Farms with an S. And we're an educational farm. So we grow food, but we grow growers even more. You know what I mean? We know that in
Say that
line,
again. I think that
yeah,
went over people's heads.
yeah, we grow growers. You know, we grow growers. We grow more farmers. We grow more gardeners. We grow more people to be inspired to do this work. George Washington Carver being our inspiration, one of the most powerful things that he did wasn't just his work, but that he brought it to people's doorstep. You got to
Mm,
know that he created a moving schoolhouse, and it used to be in a wagon, and he would pull up on farmers' doors, you know, people that didn't even know how to read, and he would teach them about nitrogen fixation and how to rotate
mm.
crops and fix their soil because they couldn't grow no food, and their family was being terrorized by the Klan because they couldn't produce no food, and it wasn't
Talk
even them,
about
it
it.
was the soil. And so he fixed it so that they could live, they could be all right, and eventually get their freedom, because financial freedom came through the ability not just having land, because at that time they were sharecropping. So it's not about having the land, you have to have the knowledge. So George Washington Carver brought them the information. He brought them the knowledge, and they were able to reverse not just their situation, the whole stock market, the whole Great Depression, everything in America had collapsed at that time because of this farming epidemic, this agricultural catastrophe, the Great Dust Bowl. You got to do your research a little bit about this time period, and how yes, his information and his ability to restore agriculture in the South first and then beyond saved the economy in this country. um yeah, I mean, they know they had to give him a monument. I mean, the first monument ever made for a black man was George Washington Carver. You know what I'm saying? It was.
And he was the advisor for 2 or 3 presidents
Oh
in his
yeah.
time.
Oh
That is
yeah.
monumental within itself.
Oh yeah. And
So,
Henry Ford wanted them to come, and he offered him 6 figures, which at that time was a million. He was offering him $1 million a year to come and just work for the Ford company with his knowledge about chemistry, because he created, he took the soybean and he was able to create this plastic car that Henry Ford, went and put into production. He was beating the car with a bat and it wouldn't even crack. Like, so George Washington Carver, that was all George's studies and work that did that. And so he wanted to come work for him, but he was at Tuskegee.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And so you got to know, even for him to get to Tuskegee, he left like an illustrious elite college. He was the only black dude there,
And
but like,
that's important. That's important. People don't talk about that
oh
enough.
man,
Because
he went from comfort to like, yo, I mean, he didn't even have a lab. He had to put together, he had to go in the barn and put pieces together, and you know what I'm saying?
Booker T. Washington, man. Shout out to Booker T. Washington.
Booker T. And he didn't want that money. Henry Ford offered him all that money. He was like, I'm good. I'm gonna stay right here in the hood, and I'm gonna help my people.
Yep.
And we face these same decisions sometimes, in our lane and in what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? But this work is important. Many are called, few are chosen. Look, there's going to be a time that more and more people are going to wish that they paid attention to these lessons that are being passed now. You only know what you know. You know what I'm saying? And so learn how to connect with nature. Learn how to grow a little something. It will make your life better in every way. You know what I mean? You don't got to be a farmer to be a grower.
Right.
So,
But you got to know something about agriculture.
Yeah, you stay rooted.
Listen, growing your own food is the real revolution. As I said,
I'm sorry, bro, not to cut you, because you asked me a few things. I got sidetracked. So, yeah, find us on IG, Free Haven Farms. Hit the link in the bio. You'll see all the different stuff we're doing. We have weekly classes that we do. It's called Recession Gardens class right now. That's where we're teaching people how to start gardens in their homes, no matter what their circumstances are. Now, we pre-record the classes. Like I said, we do 1, sometimes 2 videos a week. And then the last class of the month, which will be next week, we do a live. So the live is good because we have a question and answer section. So everyone that's already starting their gardens, that's the mentorship time that we can answer questions and we can get specific to what you're dealing with your garden. So the Recession Gardens thing is a good thing. We also started a garden coaching program. So in that garden coaching program, there's a couple different ways to do it. You can actually have us build a garden for you, and then we'll coach you through maintaining it for the year. Or if you already have a garden and you just want us to coach you through that, then we have weekly calls that we do. We have monthly, we do meetups actually once a year. It's a lot of different stuff. You just kind of click the link in the bio and see that. It's my book, Farmilosophy, Nature's Lessons to Help You Grow. So
what that book is about, real quick, beloved.
Yeah, Farmilosophy is, it's all my life lessons, in terms of growing food and connecting with nature and then taking it and applying it to our everyday life. These lessons to growing food in accordance with nature, we could apply to growing our health, to growing our relationships, to growing our finances, to growing anything that we're trying to make grow within ourselves. You know what I mean? Our goals, our dreams, those seeds, those are seeds that this is the science to help them grow. And the first classroom was nature. It was in nature. So your teachers learn from nature. Know that. And so when we get back to the root, I think that we can find a lot of self-discovery and self-growth and self-mastery through our journey with nature. That's what Farmilosophy is about. But there's a lot of lessons about growing food. It's actual, part about growing food. Here's the real lesson. and then it's like, you know, old Aesop fable type thing, like, and now here's how you can apply it to your life. You know what I mean? So
Indeed, indeed. Man, but beloved man, this has been truly, truly an informative, educational, and inspirational interview. One of the best interviews that I've done educationally wise. And as you said, timing is everything. So I'm humbled that we was given the time and space to do this live here today. And hopefully next time, inshallah, we can meet in person, face to face, to
yeah,
do another podcast interview.
yo, say, let's make that happen. Next one we
Yes,
gotta
sir.
do. Maybe we even have you come down the farm. You know what I'm saying? Down in South
Right.
Jersey. You
Right,
know, we do it
and
from the farm.
do
But
some videos,
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Definitely, we definitely need to collab and work on something together.
yeah. Let's
You
build
know,
on it.
yeah, inshallah. Listen, family, that's my time.
Yo, Quez,
Listen,
thank you, brother. I don't want you to go without giving you your flowers, man. We
yeah,
appreciate you, man. Spreading the culture, spreading the knowledge, keeping us rooted. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
I always look at your posts and find a lot of insight,
mm,
inspiration. You know what I'm saying?
appreciate
You
that.
have impact. You know, you have positive impact, and then not too many people are trying to talk to the farmer. Like you said, you know, everybody
Mm,
want to talk to the money guy,
mm.
and that's okay. We can't eat money, but that's okay. Um, but you tapped in, so you know what time it is, and
Mm,
here we are. So give thanks, bro.
mm. Alhamdulillah. All praise is due to Allah. Thank you, beloved. Thank you. So yes, family, definitely if you want to see the whole full version of this interview, click the link in the bio and subscribe to our YouTube channel, DTR 360 Books. We want to talk about financial literacy. We want to talk about the recession. We want to talk about reparations, but not enough energy and insight is giving towards the industrial agricultural aspect of things. Okay, so listen, growing your own food is the real revolution. Growing your own food is the real. Listen, we are dying slowly. We are dying slowly because we are not eating right. We are dying slowly because of what we're putting into our bodies. Okay, so if you want to put in the right food, if you want to put in the right organic food, grow your own food so that you know what you're putting into your body and so that you can live longer. That is one of the keys to life. Longevity is one of the keys to life. Longevity. All right. So definitely, thank you for being a part of this interview. Thank you for being a part of this live. Okay. We also have health books to help you eat right. We also have health books to help you fast and everything like that. Heal Thyself by Queen of Four. Heal Thyself is a great classic book. Definitely click the link in the bio for our health books. Nutricide by Dr. Laila Africa. Nutricide is another classic book that talks about health, that talks about the nutritional destruction of the African Black race. If you want to get into smoothies and nutrition, you can definitely get this book, Anti-Cancer. We a lot of us have cancer. A lot of us have high blood pressure. Listen, we have the knowledge here. We have the information here. Let's tap in and let's get hip to the education. Let's get hip to the knowledge so that it can benefit us. And in benefiting us, we can benefit our family. Also, last but not least, but I also have more help books, is by any greens necessary. By any greens necessary. All right, family. So definitely tap in, click the link in the bio. You already know what to do, man. I thank you. Share, make sure that you share this live and tell a friend to tell a friend. Eat right, eat right. Make sure that you read, study, read, and apply the knowledge. And you will continue to elevate because elevation causes expansion. All right, elevation causes expansion. So I leave you as I greeted you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shalom, shalom. Hotep, hotep. Islam. Alafia. Peace.